Before you start listening to this story, I highly suggest that you find the videos contained within the links below.
This all feels like some kind of insane dream. Maybe it is, and I will wake up realizing I wasted my time dreaming I'm in front of my computer typing all this out to an audience of no one. But regardless, I do need to get this out there, because I don't know what to do. At 1:30 a.m., I'm just sitting on my couch, playing games and listening to a YouTube video as usual, when I heard a strange snarling sound. I paused the video to see if it was just in the background of it, or if the noise had really come from here. I hear it again, the same snarling, growling noise. Anyone who lives in the suburbs of Australia will tell you possums are a common occurrence, and I could pinpoint the sound of one when I heard it, as my cat often gets into fight with the buggers and comes back all scratched up. As I got outside, the only light being from my phone's flashlight and the dim outside light that barely extended past the back porch, I walked towards the shed and saw, in fact, there was a possum on the fence. But it wasn't snarling at my cat. It was staring at her. A woman facing the shed, back turned to me. Normally, this wouldn't frighten me, but there was a random woman in my backyard. I freaked out, placed my hand over my mouth to stop from making a noise, and I moved backward as quietly as I could. Not breaking sight of this woman, I got to the door and opened it without her moving. I turned all the lights off and sat in the living room. After a minute, I decided to call the police, who arrived at 2:05 a.m. They investigated and found no woman on my property. I gave a description of the woman as best I could, and they said they would look into it before driving off. About half an hour later, I hear skittering and scratching on my roof. Normally, again, something I disregard as possums, birds, rats, whatever. Now I got paranoid about. So I grabbed my phone again and went outside. I hopped up on some spare pavement tiles we had, and from those to the air conditioning unit. As soon as I got within line of sight of the guttering on the roof, I saw the woman staring straight at me. Her eyes and mouth showing no emotion. She looked pretty out of it. Seeing her any time of day, in any other place, I would have guessed she was on something, but this late at night on my roof, my brain didn't work. I freaked out and jumped, or rather fell down, off of the air conditioning unit, and sprinted for the door, slamming it shut behind me and pressing my back against it, like I was bracing the goddamn fort. I stood there for a good 10 minutes before calming down. I looked out the screen door again and saw no one. I breathed a sigh of relief and tried to calm down by going back to my room to play my games again. However, at 4:12 a.m., curiosity got the better of me, and I peered outside my window. The woman is still there, and she's facing towards my window. I've been holding a staring contest with her until I noticed the sunrise. I looked down at my watch and saw it was 8:15 a.m. And now she is inches away from my window, just sort of standing there. Not threatening, just sort of blankly staring at me like a dog that wants food or something, but still not moving. I don't know what to do. But what I do know is I'm calling in and telling work I can't come today. I'm not going outside. But I can't stay inside forever. Update. So, it has been a few days. I wish I could have had an update out sooner, but it's been really crazy around here. I fell asleep for around 4 hours after I posted what had happened. When I woke up, I was extremely groggy, and I went out the front door and down the steps to check the mail before I remembered why I was waking up at such an odd hour. Well, I say I remembered, when in reality the reason was standing right in front of me. At this point, I had 3 options: act on instinct and attack it, run away, or say hi and hope those aren't my last words. Because that would be a very boring quote for a tombstone. Despite every rational fiber of my being telling me otherwise, I just stared at it and said, "Hey, can I help you?" To which the woman just stood there. Her expression didn't change. Honestly, that was creepier to me than if it did. So I backed away and locked the door and went back to my room, where through the blinds I could see she was staring at me through the window, in the backyard. So from that point, I taped cardboard on the windows so there were no cracks, and started drinking and reading some of the things you guys suggested on my last post. I did not want to call the police again so soon for the same thing just for her to run off again because, well, we've all read The Boy That Cried Wolf. And I think that cops would probably think that I fit the description to a T. I decided that there is no way I would let this go on long enough to go out and get any food or anything. I asked work if I could take the rest of the week off, unpaid. I need to save those leave hours. From work, on the grounds that I was very sick. If it took longer than a week, I was just going to go out there and let whatever happens happen. So I was still left with 2 options: attack it, or, I guess, investigate it. My neighbors, they seem to all have kids that love playing outside. I was kind of considering going out there and asking the parents there if they could see anyone apart from me in the backyard. At one point during the day, one of the kids kicked a ball over the fence. I thought now might be a good time to get someone's attention without being awkward. I went outside to look for the ball, that I definitely heard bouncing against my wall, but it was gone. My neighbor popped his head over the fence, asking if I could toss his kid's ball back, but I couldn't find it. Big, bright blue ball, according to the dad, but I couldn't see it, or the woman. My neighbor gave me an annoyed look and a few words before I suggested it might have fallen over the other neighbor's fence. I knew it was a lie, but I also knew that he was not going to believe my theory. That a woman, apparently only I can see, took the ball in the second no one was looking at it and ran with it like an overly excitable but untrained fucking puppy. I saw something funny in the news that night. They found a missing woman alive and well. Not often enough do you hear of a missing person's safe return. But she looked so much like the woman who had been stalking me. I mean, not close enough to look like sisters of anything. But the same brown hair, brown eyes, facial structure and even clothes, black shirt and pants. I mean, I know it's not related at all, but I actually found it kind of amusing. At this point, I opened my mind up to more illogical conclusions. Like, this wasn't actually a living, breathing woman standing in my backyard. I tried to find my old sort of CCTV that I had, and come nightfall, I had found it. I tried to get footage of the woman, but when I went back to the window, she was gone. I'll still post the video up, There's nothing there unless you have an odd appreciation for 90s security cameras. I don't know. Maybe you'll see something I didn't. Although I did notice that, with the camera there for good, she didn't come back. Not to that window, at least. I didn't feel safer, though. She was at the window on the other side. The next day, I saw a message that said maybe this thing is not an evil spirit or a homicidal maniac, but a protector of some sort, or a guardian. I reflected on this and my situation for a while before deciding to just go outside upon sunrise. Well, I don't really know what I was expecting, but when sunrise came, I went to my front door. She was so close to it, she was almost pressed up against it, and I opened the door. To my surprise, she wouldn't actually come in. I left the door open and stepped back some, but she still did not move past the doorway. I walked back up to her and asked her what she wanted from me, and I am still in shock. This image, I want it the fuck out of my head. She smiled. Smirked at first, but then smiled. She smiled wide and locked eyes with me before raising her hands up and smashing the porch light with her bare fists, keeping eye contact and smiling the whole fucking time. She brought her bloody hand back down to her side and stayed in the doorway. I slowly closed the door on her face, took a step back, breathed deeply, and screamed very loud. So, I don't know what to do, and now I'm freaked out. I spent the last 2 days drinking and making sure all of the windows were blacked out and the doors locked. I don't think I will ever get that fucking smile out of my head. Update 2. It's the night after, and I heard some noises from the side of my house. I set the camera up and left for about 20 minutes, and this time, stuff actually happened. Not anything I can explain, but something. Update. So, it's been a few days since I updated, and for that I'm sorry. But today, I bring answers and closure. It may not be as flashy as you may like. This is just what happened, and how this all played out. And in reality, it's kind of embarrassing. Not because this woman was not a threat or anything, but because in her way, she was. Very much so. But it's how she was a threat that makes things hard for me to share with you. So, let me just recount my last week. I apologize if it's been a bit disjointed. The lack of sleep and all of the other shit that has happened has me a tiny bit frazzled. I'm also noticing a bit more vulgarity in my language after recent events, so keep that in mind. So let's start with the day after I uploaded the video of shit happening. I took your advice and went to call the police again, this time having the smashed porch light as proof. However, when I went to take a picture of the porch light, the fucking thing was fixed. Like it never happened. I threw my phone in annoyance on the couch. I didn't just smash it. And I just had this feeling of unnatural anger. It was like a feeling of unbridled rage, when I knew it was unjustified. I can't really tell you what happened next. I woke up 6 hours later to a phone call. I went and looked outside for the woman, to see her standing there, a huge shiner on her right eye. Despite this, she was still smiling at me, keeping eye contact with me no matter what I did. So, being absolutely fed up with this, and knowing that I cared not for the consequences at this point, I walked straight outside and punched this woman right in the left eye. Now, I'm not a strong person at all. I'm a skitty, average-heighted bloke. So a scrawny-ass punch from me should not have knocked her down like it did. But I only think of that in retrospect. In the moment, all I was thinking, once she got up, is why the fuck is she smiling even wider? I got scared and ran inside, and slammed the door, getting annoyed at myself. What's wrong, asshole? Scared of a woman just because she smiled at you? I spent the rest of the day ignoring the outside, and that night, I called my mum, asking if I could stay with her for a few days. The next morning, I got packed and set off to my mum's house. I felt kinda bad about it. I had only moved out the previous year, and now I was coming back home like a scared 9-year-old. It was pretty embarrassing. Nonetheless, it seemed to work like a fucking charm. I didn't see her for 2 whole days. That was until 4 days ago, when I went out to take out the rubbish. I saw her by the trash cans, and when she saw that I spotted her, she fucking sprinted full force, faster than I had seen any human run. Her legs, I can't explain them. They weren't blurring with speed like a cartoon character, but that whole 1 foot in front of the other thing you learn when you were like 2? Yeah, well that wasn't exactly happening. It was almost like both legs were moving forward simultaneously in some sort of perpetual motion movement. Towards me. Thank fucking Christ, I was only at the door so I could just scramble back into the house. Where, when she got to it, she stopped dead in her tracks. After I caught my breath, I still couldn't move, and I just screamed, "Why don't you just fuck off?" And for the first time, she actually replied, "Because, silly, you broke my eyes. I need new ones." I stood there, puzzled, until I realized what she meant. Her 2 black eyes, which I had only just now realized, looked way too sunken in for what black eyes should look like, and I should know. I was prime bullying target numero uno back at school. After I stood there, stunned some more, all I could think to do was yell my lungs out at her for a solid minute. I can't remember what I said, but it was enough for my mom to come to the door and ask me what I was yelling about. I turned to her in a gesture of, "You seriously can't see this?" Before turning back and realizing that she was gone. This happened a lot over the next 2 days. My mom would ask me to go outside and I would protest. I can't because I'm being stalked. This ended the debacle a couple days ago, where I told her I would go out to the shops with her, if we stayed together, to which she agreed. But we couldn't even make it to the car before I spotted her again. Her eyes now were completely gone. The skin around them charcoal black and seemed gooey, like they were decomposing and dripping off. Her eyes black, shriveled, and lacking pupils. I screamed and pointed at her. My mum freaked. I was kind of relieved she could finally see this woman. Someone can finally see this fucking woman. But only after 20 seconds of this, and the woman moving slowly closer to me, did I realize my mum wasn't freaking out at her, but me. She told me to knock it off, and I kept telling her to look at the fucking woman coming even closer. She got a very concerned look on her face, herded me into the car, and took me to the doctor. I told him that there was nothing wrong with me, and I explained the story to him. Seeing her everywhere, and how no one could see her. The doctor ran some tests on me, and I could see him and my mother talking in the other room, a concerned look on their faces as they turned to me and gave me the news. I had been diagnosed as schizophrenic with multiple personality disorder. So it is with a heavy heart that I have to explain that, well, this was all in my head. And it always will be. She will never go away. She is always there. They gave me a lot of medication, and I realized a lot of the things I was seeing just weren't there. But no matter how much medication they give me, the woman and her ever more decomposing face don't leave me. I mean, true, it has only been 48 hours, but I know she will never leave me. She tells me all the fucking time, her face slowly dissolving more and more. I almost regret to inform you all that yes, I have multiple personality disorder. This explains my random blackouts, the woman's right eye injury, and most importantly, my video. Somehow, in the 6 minutes of me locking the door and the first noises, my personality switched, and, well, look. I am really fucking sorry. I feel like I've wasted your time. I guess my punishment fits, though. I will be seeing this type of shit for the rest of my life, it seems. I don't know why people like to pretend to be dark, edgy, and schizo and mad. It's a living fucking nightmare. Who would want this? So yes, this is my final update, for 2 reasons. Reason 1, mystery solved. Reason 2, not 10 minutes ago she stepped a foot through my doorway into my hospital room, a rotted smile spread across her face. My brain is trying to kill me, and it is winning.